Went from Point Cook to Mount Gambier and flew in the old DH-84s and Avro Ansons, and was there for a while. Then I got posted to 10 Squadron, which was flying boats in Southampton, but unfortunately that got scrubbed and we were switched down to 2 AOS Air Observer School at Laverton at that time. Later posted on to Point, that squadron moved on to Cressy, just down near Geelong. Around about 1942, they were getting short of radio mechanics, and being a peacetime course, we had done the mechanics side as well as the signal side. So they scrubbed our WT Air mustering and made us Wallace up mechanics, and then sent us out into the squadrons servicing the aircraft. I went up originally to Darwin with 77 Squadron, Kitty Hawk Squadron. Then we went round in a Liberty boat to Townsville, and then from Townsville we went in a little 3,000 tonner Vandalin on to Milne Bay. I remember one particular pilot, and we never worked out how or why, used to arrive with a broken aerial every time he took off. So we had to keep making up and replacing aerials. We put in all the telephone lines around the squadron area and things like that. Another thing was the wireless operator's extra job was to start the engines, which you had to do by getting out and priming and then cranking. And we had some funny trips. I remember on one we went from up the east coast with the CO of the Advanced Operational Bases as our pilot, and we had the chief medical bloke who was a man of about 30 stone. It took 3 of us to get him into the Anson. And normally there's a crew of 3, but we had on that occasion up to 7 on board. And I remember when we landed at Williamtown, while the rest were away doing their thing, I was more or less guard job on the aircraft. Williamtown at that time was an American base, and another 19-year-old American came up. Could he have a look at the aircraft? Oh yeah, and we were showing him all around because we had the gun in the turret and whatnot. And he said, "Oh, you got bomb bays?" "Yeah." "Oh, can I have a look?" Yes, so we went down and had a look on the bomb bays, and much to my horror there was 200-pound anti-sub bombs sitting in the bomb bay. We were already grossly overloaded with passengers, so I went up the officers' mess and called the boss out and told him he nearly passed out, and he said, "Get rid of them." So we dropped them off and stuck them in a ditch, and as far as I know they're still in that ditch. So we were doing anti-sub patrol work over the strait. We'd have to take off in the morning and turn very, very sharply to get over the railway line so that we could follow the railway line, because navigation was pretty primitive. Follow the railway line down to Geelong to get the heat from Geelong to let us get a departure point, and away we'd go. And if we were in the afternoon shift coming in at night, the 3 of us would be crowded in the nose in the fog, coming down looking, there it is, there's the ground. Terrify me now, but in those days we thought it was great fun, because we were all only about 19. Went up to Milne Bay, and we were there for maybe 6 months. Then the squadron moved over to the D'Entrecasteaux Goodenough Island, and then I was transferred from Goodenough, from 77 Squadron into the Goodenough WT station, and had responsibility for the transmitting area of it. One that I remember was we were in the workshops and somebody said, "Oh, there's a Catalina on the land down on the strip." And of course we all panicked. "Catalina on the strip? What, it's sprained?" We didn't know it had wheels as well as floats. and went down. One of the funny little side issues I remember, there was a native village that a mate and I used to visit quite frequently. There was the boss's son was a chap by the name of Owen, and Goodenough Island goes up about 8,000 feet, and he'd take us cruising around this mountain, as we called it. And we went up one time and I had a large tin of bully beef I'd got from the mess to trade for things, and I said to Owen, what can we trade for this? In the island, meat is very, very scarce, and his eyes gleamed and he said, I will give you a bunch of bananas as big as your leg for that, but they're not quite ripe. Oh, righto. They will be ripe next weekend. Oh, I can't get here next weekend. 1 minute and he up the stairs into his hut, came out with, of all things, a duplicate carbon book. And he said, write your name on there. And I tore it off and he said, you give that to your friends and they can come and get the bananas. Well, as it happened, they weren't ripe the next week, and we went up the following week. Huge bunch of bananas. How are we going to get that down to the truck, which is about 1.5 miles away? Oh, the boys will carry it for you. And he whistled up the boys. Well, I think they might have been 4 to 5, because after 3 they were allowed to smoke. And these 2 little fellows hooked these banana between them, without stopping, walked all the way down to the truck, and we'd said to Harmony, what do we pay them when we get down there, Harmony? He said, just give them a cigarette each.